It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
Hello and welcome. He is Gary McNamara. I'm Eric Harley as we begin a Thursday. Gary, how are you?
I don't know. This is another show. I don't know where to start.
Yeah.
I remember when I first got into talk radio, a year or two ago. I remember that it was like, okay, is there anything to talk about? Where am I going to go? Oh, man. You know, I used to have nightmares about that.
Yeah.
One of the nightmares I used to have is that I was doing my talk radio show and I ran out of things to say.
Yeah.
And I looked at the phones and there were no phone calls and that was it. My brain was empty.
It's called a quota dream, a quota nightmare. So basically it applies to whatever field you're in. Yeah. You run out of, you can't produce anything.
Right.
You don't have the materials to produce something, and that's
right.
It's called a quota nightmare, I think.
I had a quota nightmare then.
Yeah.
And I would wake up going, oh, wait a minute, I could talk all day. The dream is wrong.
This goes back several years. I had a dream where, and by the way, I'm not going to say anything profound here. After I say I had a dream, it's not going to be repeated by history from great scholars from years from now. I had a dream that I was thrown back into a studio, a music radio studio. Hey, you got to go on the air. I mean, then I'm on the air and there's no music it's like, where's the next song? And I couldn't find because back in our day, well, when I started, it was vinyl. Then, CDs and carts and everything else. Carts are like an 8-track tape, kids. Ask your parents what an 8-track tape is. And so you had to grab the individual songs and load them in whatever, medium you were running at the time. Now everything is done on a computer, but I have this dream over and over again where it happened 3 or 4 times, and I haven't been in music radio in almost 30 years. So it was find a song. Where's the next song? I'm running out of songs to play.
Now, I'll let you know that dream replaced my first dream.
Mm-hmm.
And the first dream that I had, this was when I was in college, and I'm not kidding, the only elective I could take, this is my senior year, was ancient Chinese history.
Really?
Yes. And I didn't know anything. And I had to go in, true story, and I had to, I took it pass-fail, but the teacher said I had to get a 90 on the final exam to get a pass. That's how bad I was doing in the course. I was just busy. I was busy working. It was like at that point, it was like, just get me out of college. And just
right.
And so the morning, it was like an afternoon test. The morning of the test of the final exam that I had to get a 90 in, I went to the pub, which was right across from the campus radio station. We had a pub. And it opened up like about 10 o'clock in the morning.
All right.
Imagine, I don't do colleges have pubs these days? I don't think many of them do. I know that.
Yeah, they're called dorm rooms.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
Because the pub closed eventually.
Mm-hmm.
But my buddy Tim Craig, never forget, he said, well, let me school you on it. Well, you might as well have a beer.
Yeah. Well, you're here.
Let's put it this way. I was feeling okay when I went in to take the exam.
Yeah, all right.
I had a couple of beers. And the dream is I opened the test and said, I don't know any of the answers. I'm not going to graduate from college. And there's pure panic. Now, I did. I got a pass on it. so I must have got a 90. So, I mean, I was really studying, and I don't know whether the alcohol helped at all in that. Apparently, it didn't hurt. Not that I'm advising.
Well,
kids, do not follow this advice here.
Well, I think it's scientific proof. I think the years-long Red Eye Radio study of the direct correlation, in fact, causation of good grades in college results from drinking while you're studying at a pub.
I will let you know that
100%.
I will let you know
of the participants in the study passed.
That we do homework all the time, and this is the actual test going on the air. I will let you know, except for a little bit of caffeine in the system, I am not legally intoxicated. I'm only at a .06.
Yeah, I can't imagine sitting around. Maybe I should try that. We're off next week. We're on vacation next week, and I'm thinking, oh, okay, I'll give it a trial run. No, now, most days I feel like somebody slipped me some kind of mushrooms or
Mickey?
Something where it's just, wow, look at all these weird stories instead of all the weird colors.
Yeah.
Look at all the weird stories.
No, you're right. I mean, that's why.
We're at a point where what liberals have on Trump, a little over 2 months from the election, is the whole Arlington cemetery thing. And I'm thinking to myself, you guys really want to go down that path?
I mean, it was an amazing day, and we talk about this all the time. It's like, is everybody high? Because the ideas that are being promoted by the left are so insane, you don't think that any sober individual could actually hold those opinions.
Right.
Or try to defend those opinions, or, as we see now, make it natural that, for example, that Kamaga, that Kamala is Kamaga in any way. I mean, the gaslighting, the line is so obvious, and it has been during this administration, that you ask, well, are they high, or are the public that is accepting it high?
Right.
Is this what we get from the legalization of marijuana in many states? And you brought up the entire Arlington cemetery thing. Absolutely mind-boggling.
Yeah.
And I'll say what Scott Jennings said on CNN. The only thing that matters is the Gold Star families.
That's it.
What did the Gold Star? The Gold Star families invited him. The Gold Star families, wanted the photographer.
Right.
Nothing else matters.
That's it.
An employee at the cemetery doesn't matter.
Nope.
The only thing that matters is what the Gold Star families wanted, and the Gold Star families put out a statement saying everything that was done, they requested.
Yep.
To honor their family fallen. That's it.
And if you don't like the way they celebrated, so what?
Right.
They're celebrating the life of their lost loved one. You don't get any say-so in that.
They get to choose how they grieve, how they mourn, how they celebrate life. And J.D. Vance was correct to Kamala Harris.
Yep.
And to the left, go to hell.
Yeah. Straight.
But when you think that that's what they were attempting to use, that's all. You and I have talked about, and we think it's an important thing just to look at every day and say, okay, who won that day? And when you realize that every poll that's still coming out shows the vast majority of Americans agree with Trump on the issues. Still yesterday, a bunch of different polls.
Right.
And so you look at it and you say, how can they attempt to defend, these things, and why does the American public accept it? And at times, a significant portion of the American public accepts it. We'll see who really accepts it come election day. But it is at times mind-boggling what they attempt to defend. And we know that's one of the reasons that the left is so quiet.
Yeah.
That's why Democrats don't talk issues.
Right.
That's why if you think about your Democrat friends, none of them talk issues at all because they know the American public doesn't agree with them on the issues.
Mm-hmm.
Let me read you this because this is from a former Democrat pollster, Mark Penn. Clinton pollster, was in the Clinton administration.
Mm-hmm.
No longer. I mean, he has, moved. I don't know what he would call himself right now, but he has moved away from the Democratic Party.
Mm.
But he said, our elections continually descend into an unworthy mess as the public learned Biden was unfit only from a debate. Now, that's not true. The public already knew. It was the Democrats that realized they couldn't sell it anymore. But he says, our elections continually descend into an unworthy mess as the public learned Biden was unfit only from a debate after a non-primary primary, and now a whole new team has been installed and the lawfare campaign resumed. Like many, I believe Trump should have acted faster when the riot broke out, but the attempt to turn the election challenges into a criminal conspiracy at this point is Jack Smith and the Justice Department interfering in the election. No primaries, few interviews, no policy papers, and now lawfare. The world's most important job affecting the lives of hundreds of millions of people should not be conducted this way. Sort of wraps it up, doesn't it?
It does.
I said the only nitpicking, and it's not really nitpicking, is where he said that the public learned Biden was unfit only from a debate. No, they didn't. The public already knew.
Yeah, they knew before that.
The public knew. It was just the Democrats realized they couldn't sell the bull anymore.
Right. It was final acknowledgement,
right,
by Democrats. It wasn't realization by most. Most people already saw it.
And it's funny because you think about, for example, the wall. Trump.
I'm sorry, Kamala's wall or Trump's wall?
Just the concept of the wall. Trump was demonized like no other president in the history of the United States for wanting a wall.
Yeah. Yeah.
He was called Hitler, a racist.
It was a movement against
xenophobe.
him.
There was a movement that, like, I've never seen on one particular issue, the wall, that it was absolutely pure evil.
Yeah.
That you could not get more evil than that. They brought up concentration camps. They brought up Nazis. They brought up, you name it, and the Democrats used it against the president. And like that, within a day, the Harris campaign, we're pro-wall. Nothing from Democrats. Absolutely nothing.
Nope.
Why? Because now the majority of Americans, as you see through the polls, because the Democrats, the Harris-Biden campaign screwed it up so much in a calculated way, wanted chaos on the border and in the major cities of America, that the majority of Americans said, not only do we need a wall, we need mass deportation, which you never thought you would see. You know, if you look at 8 years ago where the narrative was,
right.
8 years, 7 years, 6 years, 5 years, 4 years, 3 years, all the way through, completely against it. And so you have to ask yourself, where do Democrats stand? Because they know she's lying. Every Democrat listening knows that the campaign's not pro-fracking. And by the way, we'll have an audio cut from they can't even say she's pro-fracking. It's like, well, she's for a comprehensive energy policy.
Well,
it's like they're trying to sell both sides to whatever audience happens to be listening at the time, because they believe, if you're a Democrat, they believe you're the biggest moron idiot ever. As Jonathan Gruber said during the Obama administration, the stupid American voter, he wasn't talking about Republicans.
Nope.
He was talking about Democrats, and he's a Democrat. Because
and they don't care about your vote? Oh,
nope.
I'm sorry. You didn't get a vote in this one.
Yeah. But when they, yesterday, trying to make that, I mean, they were going crazy. Like, wow. But all that matters is what the family wants.
Right.
So when it comes down to that,
Right.
what it wanted. The family wanted it.
Right.
Where was Trump wrong?
This is a poor attempt to cover up the stolen valor with Tim Walz.
Yeah.
That's what this is. Again, J.D. Vance is an elitist. He went to Yale. They have Yale graduates at their convention
Well, not only
on the
that-
Democratic stage.
Not only is he elitist, but the fact is the whole point was he shouldn't have gone from poverty to Yale.
Exactly.
It was actually an anti-elite. It was actually stating that only elitists should go to Yale. You cannot start as someone who is in poverty and go to Yale.
Right. You certainly can't be a conservative on a Yale campus. Right.
Right. But you think about that. I mean, that's what they were attempting to sell. How bizarre is no wonder we say, is everybody high? So what you're saying, it's a negative that somebody came from poverty and a pretty dysfunctional family and rose to the level of going to Yale, and that's a negative. Because remember, Walz said, I don't know anybody who was in poverty and went to Yale. Huh?
What?
Became a negative. And that's where you say, this isn't weed, this is acid.
Yeah.
What's beyond? I don't know. What's a bigger hallucinogen than LSD? I don't know. There's probably one out there. Whatever it is.
2 LSDs. I don't. I don't know how any of it works. I do know what's bigger. The Democratic National Convention.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. We got a great show ahead. 866-90-RED-EYE.
This report is brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology, is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance. How much do you know about synthetic oil? Heavy-duty trucks have been running on traditional mineral oil for the last 100 years, but today's technology brings us other options to consider. Synthetic is better quality. Unlike conventional oil, synthetic oils have a consistent molecular structure, giving it the ability to support pressures from higher horsepower engines, especially at lower RPMs. It also allows oil to reduce friction in an engine, controlling temperatures and improving fuel economy. Lastly, they're cleaner. Synthetics pick up fewer contaminants as they do their job of lubrication. They also have a better oxidation stability, resulting in an overall cleaner engine.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Coming up, more on Trump at Arlington, which just got to be ridiculous. We'll have some audio on that. There is no point that the Democrats had. No. There is no point, except misinformation.
Right.
Or ignoring the fact of what the Gold Star family requested. And sorry, when a Gold Star family requests something from you, you do it.
Yeah.
End of story.
Right. And again, it shows you how desperate they are right now.
Yeah, that's
to have anything
you're right.
At all remotely close to this as their controversy.
Right.
Think about the whole J.D. Vance thing. J.D. Vance is weird, and then they redefine the word weird. I thought I knew what weird was. I mean, they really, it is zero self-awareness.
Yeah, no.
And there's no way it doesn't come back to haunt them.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Download our Red Eye Radio app today, and you can listen when and where you choose. Here's Scott Jennings last night on CNN about Trump and the Gold Star families at the Arlington National Cemetery.
Honestly, the way Biden and Harris have treated these families and ignored them and disrespected them after one of the most disastrous decisions that they made in this White House, to me, is the most despicable part of this. And look, there's a lot of opinions about this, and everybody's got comments, but the only opinion I really care about are the families in question. And they said, as J.D. Vance reported, we had given our approval for Trump's official videographer and photographer to attend. We cherish these memories forever. We're deeply grateful for the president for taking the time to honor our children and for standing alongside us in our grief. I mean, they put out a long statement saying they could not have been happier to have Donald Trump there at Arlington with them, and he's given them more than the time of day, and Joe Biden and Kamala Harris can't even do that. Only people who are so craven about this could try to turn something positive, which is Donald Trump spending time with Gold Star families, into some political garbage attack. That's what I think. The only people who matter are Gold Star families. They invited Trump, he went, and they're happy he was there. And if that's not good enough for the Democrats, I don't know what to tell you.
Well, I believe that Vance made it clear yesterday what to tell them.
And the other thing that our veterans care, a lot more about is that 3 years ago, 13 brave, innocent Americans died, and they died because Kamala Harris refused to do her job, and there hasn't been a single investigation or a single firing. I don't, look, sometimes mistakes happen. That's just the nature of government, the nature of military service. But to have those 13 Americans lose their lives and not fire a single person is disgraceful. Kamala Harris is disgraceful. We're going to talk about a story out of those 13 brave, innocent Americans who lost their lives. It's that Kamala Harris is so asleep at the wheel that she won't even do an investigation into what happened, and she wants to yell at Donald Trump because he showed up. She can go to hell.
Yeah, flat out. It is bizarre. But then you back up and go, nope, it's the Democratic Party. Not only when you look at the stolen valor from Tim Walz, not only are they okay with that, they're against a former president showing up and celebrating the life with a Gold Star family, the life of their lost loved one. And why you choose that battle is beyond me this close to the election. We're a little over 2 months out, and that's what they think they've got against Trump?
Yeah. That's the one thing that I thought yesterday. I said, my God, the desperation from the left, because you and I both know that as soon as the Gold Star family came out and said, this is what we requested.
Exactly.
We wanted this.
Right.
That's the end of the story.
That's it. That's it.
That's the end of the story. And what the Gold Star family wants, the Gold Star family gets.
Yep. He showed up.
Right. Nobody was harmed.
Nope.
But to make it into the fact that Trump, in this case, by following the wishes of the Gold Star family, is somehow not respectful to our fallen soldiers when you've had Biden and Harris and the people that are supporting them attacking Trump on this, and they've completely ignored, won't even say the names, have never honored those fallen, and because of their lies to the American public over and over again about Afghanistan and the lack of action. Because if you saw the congressional hearings that the Republicans had on that last year, I mean, it was heartbreaking. When you see the sniper saying we had the shot and we couldn't get, it was pure chaos. Nobody could tell us what to do from the military. And to not have an investigation on, you want to spit on the face of the fallen to not have an investigation and the president and the vice president not demand that there be an investigation on this. That's where the disrespect comes in. Not even disrespect. That's the spitting on the graves of the fallen. And how dare they look and try, because what they're doing by saying Trump's wrong, they're saying the Gold Star family is wrong somehow.
Mm-hmm. That none of them should have been there.
Right.
Yeah, go to hell.
Yeah.
Especially the people that were responsible for the decisions that led to the botched withdrawal of Afghanistan in the first place.
Right. They knew, though. They knew that Biden on the beach and Harris not really bringing it up and Trump being there, they know that's politically damaging to them. So they're at this point, and this is why we have said, look, they're not journalists out there, they're political activists, because they're okay. They hit and then they run. It's a hit and run thing where you just throw something out and hope that some people get the one side of it. And you saw it, you could see it on social media when somebody on the left brings it up. He's so disrespectful, not even knowing that, and then people will say, excuse me, this is what the Gold Star families wanted, and then they just drop it. They disappear.
Right.
They don't respond to it. They're just gone. So they hit and then they run, and they think that that's successful, but they're not shamed by it at all because they really don't give a damn about the troops.
No.
They care only about the politics of it. But they're losing the politics. You can't win. As soon as the Gold Star family said everything that was done, we requested, we approved everything.
Yep.
And we're so glad that he's here because the president wasn't here.
No.
The vice president wasn't here.
No.
Democrats weren't there.
Nope.
He's there. And because he took the effort to honor the fallen and the Gold Star families that were there, that's a negative to Democrats.
Right. I thought when the story first hit, just in the first few minutes, I thought, this is quite the opposite of the Biden-Harris administration. Quite the opposite. A president who actually shows up for Gold Star families versus a president who, through his decision, creates more of them.
Yeah. And remember, the decision that started with the line over and over again
and over
to the American public about what the generals were telling him what to do.
Throughout that entire series of events, that entire summer, those months leading up to the botched withdrawal.
Yep. They were telling him the opposite. And there's no anger from the media that Biden lied about what the generals told him.
Right.
I mean, what a huge scandal that was. They didn't care. They didn't care. They didn't care. They didn't give a damn about the 13 soldiers that were lost.
Nope.
They didn't give a damn.
And over again, saying the Taliban wouldn't take over. They're not going to take over. They're not going to take over. And just days after the botched exit was done, sitting down with ABC, Stephanopoulos saying, well, the Taliban was always going to take over. Yeah. That's the arrogance. That's the incompetence of the Biden-Harris administration.
Just amazing.
It's a whole new level. And you want her to be president again?
But you really see you see the one thing you can see is the desperation of the media. Would you see Mark Halperin yesterday?
Mm.
Mark Halperin came out and said, a month from now, she's going to be just where Biden was. It's Mark Halperin. He's he's as liberal Democrat as you can say. He goes, the inside polling and everything else, what we see, it's going to be, it probably be the same thing. We'll play that audio coming up in a little bit. He goes, probably be the same thing.
Well, because, and we talked about it.
Where Harris will.
You and I talked about it, I think it was Sunday night, coming in Sunday night, Monday morning, in the wake of the convention last week. There's nothing else there. The weird show that they put on last week was the best they could do. And then the whole weird way that they set up the interview She finally sets up the interview and has to bring Timmy with her. I mean,
There was a parody picture of him in a emotional support animal harness.
he's got
Did
the
you see that one?
harness on.
As we have said, she needs her emotional support, white, male, mansplainer.
Right.
She can't do it herself. But then remember, with the radical transgender movement, that the Democrats are 99.9% behind in Congress.
Yeah.
Which means they believe in the misogyny that a man should define a woman.
Yeah.
And so when you look at this all makes sense. Women's sports can't make it without men. Men need to be in women's sports. Same thing here. Democrats believe, if you take that and extrapolate it out, Democrats believe that a Kamala Harris, a woman, cannot do it on her own. She needs an emotional support, white, male, mansplainer, because she can't do it on her own.
Right.
Tell us where we're wrong.
It's so bizarre. So bizarre.
It really is.
And I think I honestly believe this will be the one and done. This will be the one and done.
Well, you see now they're backing off again on the debate.
We were saying, I think it was just yesterday, the latest, that the last time we said it, but you and I think have said it repeatedly. I don't think she wants to debate. I think she's looking for a way out.
Yeah, because Trump came out and said, no, we agreed. We've agreed. We agreed that the same rules apply. And then they came out, they were hemming and hawing. Well, we don't know why he doesn't want to. And so she may not show up. I wouldn't be surprised if she doesn't.
I wouldn't be shocked.
Because Trump should say, we go by the rules and we show up. Well, here's the point. The deal's already been made.
Yeah.
There's a contract. The contract is there.
Mm-hmm.
And they're the ones that pushed it. So all he's got to do is go to, when he goes to it, these are the rules, right, ABC? Doesn't matter what she thinks.
Right.
These are the rules. This is what we agreed to. The mics are off.
Right.
When the other one's talking, right?
Is she going to bring Tim Walz to the debate, too? They'll both be at the podium. It's because tell me why she would do another sit-down interview after CNN, after Dana Bash.
Well, look, Dana Bash's job is to protect Kamala Harris. She knows it. We all know it.
But she also, but because Dana Bash is a woman, Kamala feels like she needs a mansplainer to, mansplain everything to Dana Bash. I'll just float that little cookie.
Look, but they set it up with the radical transgender movement.
This is their rule book, not ours.
Right. This is their rule book. We're just trying to follow their rule book.
Right.
And connect the dots of their rule book.
Right. Exactly. I want to. Is it going to be a drinking game? When during the interview when she turns to Tim and right Tim or I think that's a good question for Tim.
Here's I'm trying to think. We still don't know because the Trump campaign is saying they're going to edit this. And I have not seen. Have you seen an official statement from CNN saying?
No, you were saying that during the pre-show meeting.
That this is going to be live. That's why this, to me, it doesn't sound like. I don't sense any buzz about this.
Right.
Like there would be for a debate.
Right.
Because it's just going to be one interview with somebody who is a radical left political activist, as we all know.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's going to go anywhere.
No, I don't think it will.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. A very short audio cut to play to show the seriousness here of how Democrats are taking this election based on the issues that are affecting Americans. Here is part of the Zoom call for Swifties for Kamala.
Players gonna play, 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 play. Haters gonna hate, 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 hate. Baby, I'm just gonna shake, 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 shake. I shake it off, I shake it off. Play.
There you go.
Well, I think that pretty much sums it up, and I really think that seals the deal. I think we know now by far that makes her more qualified to be president.
That's some woman who's part of Swifties for Kamala in the Zoom call. I mean, good God. Like I said, everybody is high, except us, I think.
Right.
And our listeners.
And J.D. Vance is weird.
Yeah.
Top of the Hour News is brought to you by House Products. Visit houseproducts.com.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Hi.
Hey!
One of the things that we have said is with the Harris campaign, Harris anonymous sources, as she attempts to reverse all of her major positions for a particular audience, but apparently doesn't want to fully admit that she is changing because she actually is not changing. That makes sense?
Yeah.
Here is a audio cut from CNN. Harris campaign official. Watch how, asked specifically about fracking, will not answer the question. And I will tell you this, now, though, they're taking credit. As we know, I believe we've reached, because of West Texas, we've now reached the most we've ever produced in oil.
Right.
And that's being done. And the interesting thing is, when this question was asked yesterday, the Biden administration shut down oil and mining productions, natural gas production on millions of acres in Alaska. Interesting that happened on this day. We all know, and every Democrat knows, that Democrats are anti-fracking. We all know this. And every Democrat knows that she's lying. She's anti-fracking.
Yep.
Everyone, every single Democrat knows that. And so you've got to defend it somehow, right? Listen how the direct question is asked twice, and it's just the talking points. And again, taking credit for the energy production, but not answering the pro-fracking question.
Right.
And it was sort of like, you and I always go back to Obama. Obama that did everything he possibly could on the federal level to shut down oil and natural gas production. We know it.
Yeah.
And then when Trump got into office and said, look at all the oil and natural gas production. And then Obama came back. This is like, what was it, like 8, 9, 10 months into the Trump administration? Wait a minute. I'm the one. I'm responsible. I'm the one. All that oil production happened during my administration.
Yeah.
Oh, so you're responsible for the global warming then? Of course, we all know what happened when you have the fracking revolution in this country. Where it is growing is on private and state land.
Yeah.
The federal government's attempting to, under Democrats, is attempting to shut it down everywhere. It's just the efficiency and productivity that these companies are showing is mind-boggling. You think about this over the last, 15, 17 years in this country, what they have done. But they've done it in spite of what the Democrats. But Democrats want it both ways. They want it both ways, and that's what they're trying to sell here. She's trying to sell to one audience that she's anti-fracking and another audience that she's fracking. But here's the result of it.
I think everyone's very excited that the vice president and Governor Walz are sitting down for an interview, their first joint interview, their first interview with a member of the broadcast media since she became the candidate for president. It's going to happen right here on CNN. I don't want to jump the gun on too much of it, but I do want to ask about at least one policy area that I imagine will come up at some point, which is fracking. The vice president has changed her position on fracking in Pennsylvania. Do you know why she's changed her position?
Listen, I mean, she's been very clear here.
Now, has she been very clear on fracking? We don't have to go much. Has she been very clear on fracking? That's a lie.
No,
that's a lie. We all know that. She's not been clear, but here we go.
Proud of the work that she's done as a part of this administration, making sure that American energy production is at an all-time high. We want to continue that progress into her first term in office here. And again, I think whether it's energy policy, economic policy writ large, that you have a fighter in Kamala Harris who is actually keeping the interests of the American people front and center, coming together to bring people together in search of solutions that actually improve people's quality of life, improve our economy, improve energy production. I think that stands, again, in stark contrast to Donald Trump, who may say one thing when he's in Pennsylvania, may say one thing out on the stump. But frankly, if you look at the totality of his economic agenda, his Project 2025 agenda writ large, the only solutions are those that benefit people at the very top. Billionaires, rich folks like Donald Trump, the wealthiest corporations, nothing for the American worker, nothing to actually improve the lives of the American people and our consumers. So again, I think the contrast is pretty clear.
I'll come back to Project 2025 in just a second here. But on fracking, was there something that changed her mind specifically during the 4 years of the Biden presidency?
No, listen, again, the vice president is very proud of the Biden-Harris administration.
And it's just the same thing again. Goes into the same, almost repeats the exact same answer again with the talking points without ever addressing the question. Never answers the question.
Right. Because you can't.
Well, then, as you can see, first he said, and this is the interesting thing. They're using the same terminology of Karine Jean-Pierre that nobody buys. She's been very clear on this. She's been very clear on this.
As everybody already knows.
Right, exactly, right. Now, that's where, again, this is where now they're starting to gaslight. As we said, they're slowly making the move from the lies to the gaslighting.
Yeah.
Like, what do you? She's been very clear on this. What do you mean?
Yeah.
And of course, she hasn't been clear on it because she hasn't said a word on it since she's become the nominee, since she was appointed the nominee. She hasn't said a word of it. Fracking was never mentioned. If it was such a huge thing, she would say, I am pro-fracking. The administration that I was in was wrong, but I was part of that administration, had to go along with it. She didn't say that. Everyone knows she's lying. She's not pro-fracking. Every Democrat knows she's not pro-fracking. Then he went into the fact that Donald Trump will say one thing in Pennsylvania and then another thing elsewhere. Has Donald Trump ever wavered on fracking and fossil fuel energy production in the United States?
Not aware of it.
Not aware of it. He's always been absolutely consistent on that message, and then it goes into the generality. Well, the totality of everything, it's all for the rich, which, of course, the tax cuts were not, as we know. And we say that even though the Republican tax cut raised our taxes.
Yeah.
Me and you.
We're ultra rich. Each one of us, we're very, well, we're multi-thousandaires, and we were negatively affected by it.
Yes, but still we agreed with the overall tax plan. I didn't agree.
We did?
We did.
Okay.
Except
yeah, that's right. We did.
Well, no,
I forgot I was on the air.
No,
and not doing my taxes.
No, the part that we disagreed with was where we got hit. And I'm not going to go into specifics, but the things that we got hit with were things that would increase our income. And we just said Republicans are wrong at that point to have to be putting taxes in. If you put taxes in that make it so there's less incentive to make more money because you've really hit somebody on certain business proposals that you and I both are in, and because of it, you can make more money, and the incentive is to make more money. Therefore, you make more taxes.
Right.
That's the kind of tax system that you want. To have a tax system that just says, okay, you got this tax break, which made you put out this expense in order to make more money, and then say, okay, we're not going to give you that incentive anymore. We're just going to tax you. That's not the kind of tax that I want to see Republicans putting in. But it didn't affect everybody. It had to do with business expenses.
Mm-hmm.
But we got hit. We actually, under the Republican tax cut, had to pay more in taxes.
Yes.
And that, which then created my line. If the Republicans, when they cut taxes, raise mine, God help me if the Democrats raise taxes.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, but it's, what you hear is this, again, trying to sell the idea that Kamala Harris has always been pro-fracking.
Yes. That's a great point. That's what he's trying to say.
And
without saying it.
Right. And that's not, because the thing is that if you want to get into the discussion, okay, you did a 180 on it. Why the change of heart? Right? If you're in the media and you're asking her a question. It's what you're hearing in this case is, oh, there was no 180. This is
right.
This is how it's been all along.
Right. That she's always been pro-fracking.
Right.
That's the message he's trying to put out there. Does any Democrat believe that Kamala Harris is pro-fracking? Write me an email. Just, tell me that this has always been, has that always been her policy as the campaign is Michael Tyler they're trying to communicate? That's what he's trying to communicate.
Yeah. Right. That she's always been pro-fracking.
Does any Democrat believe that?
That you actually believe it. Or you're okay with the lie.
Well, yeah, but that's what it is. They're okay with the lie. We used to get, well, the government doesn't represent the people. Actually, the Democrats represent a significant portion, probably a majority of the people that vote for them. There may be some Democrats that are voting against their best interest, but the majority of Democrats, when you see the insanity of California, that's what Democrats want.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Democrats want, and think about this, Democrats know, and they understand they're in the minority on the issues. And that's why they're okay with the lies. Every Democrat voter listening right now that's going to vote Democrat knows that. You know they're lying about everything. Mm-hmm. But you're okay with it because you wish to have their radical agenda.
Yeah.
The majority of Democrats, the reason there isn't an outcry in the Democratic Party about their anti-Semitism, their Jewish hatred, is because the majority of Democrat voters agree with that. They have bought into the identity politics for years. You've never seen a revolution. The closest we got to a revolution in the Democratic Party about identity politics, which is judging people by groups and on individuals, was Tim Ryan challenging Nancy Pelosi in 2018, and that bombed big time. And then it was right back to let's continue our racism. And that's why you have people like Brett Weinstein, lifelong Democrat, the former professor at Evergreen University. That's why you've got him coming out saying Democrats are the racist party. That's because there are racists that support the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party, the majority of the voters, supports the misogyny of the radical transgender movement.
Mm-hmm. There's no outrage there from the left.
There's no outrage. That's why they're okay with the emotional support, white male mansplainer standing by Kamala later on today.
Right.
They're for that.
Coach Tim.
Right. They're for that. The insanity that you see in the Democratic Party only exists because a significant, now you may have some Democrats that still vote Democrat that don't agree with the issues, but sorry, the majority of Democrats agree with the insanity that's going on. The voter agrees with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. There's this thing to put out there that all the Democrats are stupid. You've seen it, but you go, and they go out, they interview these people. Why are you voting for Kamala? Well, I really don't know. I really don't know. I really don't know. I really don't know. But and that exists out there. But the majority of Democrat voters stand by the issues. How do we know this? We know this by all the polls. You look at the polls. The majority of Democrats know exactly what's going on.
Yep. Yeah, no, they're fully aware of everything going on. We see the polls, then we see the polls, and then we hear the nothingness in terms of the lack of outrage on these issues. We know where they stand. They're okay with the lying.
They're okay with inflation.
Mm-hmm.
The majority of Democrats are okay with inflation.
Yep.
Otherwise, they'd be furious about the lies that have come out of the Biden-Harris administration.
Right.
They're okay with it. And the support for her shows they're even make prices even higher.
Yeah. Because the only way to prove us wrong on that would be a landslide in favor of Trump on November 5th.
And if that happens, I will gladly say I was wrong.
I'd love to be wrong.
I will stand with a megaphone and say I was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Democrat voters don't support the insanity over the last 4 years.
Right.
I'll be the happiest person on the planet to say I was that word.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
I think that came from Fonzie.
Yeah.
I was
the Fonz.
By the way,
I don't see any indication at all.
By the way, isn't Ben Stiller an idiot? I'm voting for Kamala Harris for change. You heard that yesterday. And then a couple weeks ago, yeah, every Jewish man wants to be black.
Well,
what a moron.
Well, again, it's part of, and he's part of, this behavior in making you believe she's not part of the current administration.
Yeah.
For change. What? What? Well, like they wrote at the National Review, her speech last week was a great political speech if you were running against Biden.
866-90 Red Eye.
Brought to you by FPPF, Fuel Power Max.
Most owner-operators leased to larger carriers are paid on a per-mile basis or a percentage of revenue per load. The per-mile basis is most prevalent among larger fleets. Percentage at smaller. Pay per mile tends to dominate discussions about pay just because it's easier to measure, and pay per mile often is wrongly used as the deciding factor in leasing to a carrier. While pay per mile can be a vital factor, it's not a cure for every ill, nor does it mean a big settlement check is coming an owner-operator's way. Why? Because pay per mile always must be considered in balance with gross revenue as well as total costs. Gross revenue can include flat mileage pay that varies by length of haul, percentage revenue pay, and more. Most importantly, though, for every revenue dollar generated, only part of that dollar is profit. But for every extra dollar of cost saved, the entire dollar contributes to profit. Knowing and understanding your cost to operate is fundamental to understanding the true value of any pay package. Owner-Operator Business 101 is provided by Overdrive's Partners in Business program. Go to overdriveonline.com to the Partners in Business section of the website for more details on this and many other topics. Brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Jack Smith's new Trump indictment. We'll have some audio from Andrew McCarthy. In fact, I posted it on X yesterday, and it was just like, this is going nowhere.
Yeah.
It's like, this really isn't a story because you filed the same indictment with less evidence.
Yeah,
It still is going to have problems,
Right.
with the Supreme Court. So he said it's not going anywhere. So we will get to that more on the campaign. You just see Nate Silver even said, this whole interview thing really isn't a big deal because everybody sort of knows that it's basically a setup, that she's just going to friendly media. And
right.
And with Trump and Vance talking all the time, the fact of her doing one, and then if this is a thing, if she does, it still amazes me because he points out, and I'll read the exact quote coming up following the bottom of the hour. It just popped into my mind as I was talking. I don't have it in front of me. That what amazes me is they're using the exact same election philosophy that Biden has been using. Now, it worked for Biden once. It didn't work the second time. And it hasn't worked during the presidency, ignoring the media and pretending he's not. Mm-hmm. The problem is she'll do this friendly thing. It's not going to get any bump. And then she's not going to do any again. And you're right back a week from now, right back where you are right now.
Yep.
Why won't she answer questions?
You're a threat to democracy if you don't download our app, Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. I just had to look at the clock. I'm like, I have no idea what time it is.
You know what? I just came up with a theory. I'm waiting for for this to actually happen. Because there were two questions about Kamala Harris. When is she going to do a press conference? When is she going to do a sit-down interview? Well, the question after the Dana Bash interview will be, okay, now what about a press conference? The answer will be, if my little theory works out, oh, that was also a press conference. See, it was a conference of three people. There were three people. That constitutes a conference, everyone knows. Let me rephrase it. As everybody already knows, a conference is when multiple people get together. And then news, well, that would be the Dana Bash. So this was actually also a press conference.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure. I wouldn't be surprised if they did that. I just find it interesting, Nate Silver, because I said earlier, I don't sense a buzz on this. Because
on the interview part?
On the interview.
Yeah.
Like it's a must-watch thing at all.
Yeah. Right.
I haven't got that feeling at all.
No.
There's the back and forth between the campaign, but there is no buzz that, we need to make sure we watch this, because if it's a debate, that's a different ball game.
Yeah.
But on this, I don't see it. And it's interesting because Nate Silver sort of says the same thing. The Harris interview thing is weird. From Nate Silver.
Yeah.
I don't think it's particularly a big deal. But if she inherited the very online Biden staffers who are media phobic and thought the New York Times was out to get them, when the actual problem was he was, in fact, way too old, that's not a great sign.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. But that's the same thing. I went, it's not a big deal. You can mock it, but nobody's expecting any tough questions from Dana Bash.
No.
And if she gives a couple of I'll tell you this, if she asks one tough question, watch the Democrats go, see, she asked one tough question.
Yeah.
And then I'm reading Republicans going, or different media outlets going, there are 10 questions that need to be asked to her. There are 41 questions that need to be asked to her. We brought up the major questions on yesterday's show that have to be asked. Otherwise, it's complete bogus. Not one, but all the questions.
Right.
And I don't think she can answer them. So it'd be interesting to see. Now, number one, we don't know if it's edited. We don't know if she requested and got from CNN that she needs to know what the questions are beforehand. All of this we don't know. And because Democrats have already done this, for example, remember the Donna
Brazile.
Mm-hmm. She was involved in giving answers in one debate that nothing is beyond the media setting this all up.
Right.
And and you and I've said, it took so long. And even Political was writing about the insanity of just one press conference before friendly media, that there is this incredible paranoia that exists in the campaign for letting her speak ad lib at all. We're right back to where we were with Biden, except you can't say it's because of his cognitive abilities. It's because she's absolutely clueless on everything.
It's what I've been saying all along, is that there was a sigh of relief when it was announced that Joe Biden was not going to be running, and it was short-lived because they realized that they had a candidate still that could not talk for a different reason, but a candidate that couldn't talk freely to the media. She's a liability on her own campaign that way, and everybody knows it. The Democrats knew this. The reason we say everybody knows it, we're not gaslighting here.
No, we're
because
not, no.
It was the liberal media acknowledging this. None of them, before Joe Biden dropped out, were calling for her to be the one.
Yeah.
There was this is not some kind of the result, the manifestation, the culmination of a massive grassroots effort by everyone to make her the nominee. No, it didn't work. It didn't play that way. They didn't want her. They didn't want her in the 2020 election cycle during the primary. In fact, she didn't make it to any of the primary elections in 2020. She dropped out in early December of 2019. She got here without one vote. So her sitting down and having to bring someone with her, with Dana Bash on CNN. See, if they'd have done this, let's say the first week, right? 2 days, 3 days in, they go straight to Dana Bash. I would have said, okay, that's where you start. You're going to go for the most friendly liberal media outlet, the most, at least in terms of having Dana Bash conduct the interview. So you're going to set that up, and then that would have been one thing, but you waited all this time. By the time we get to the interview, 40 days, and you went with Dana Bash at CNN, and you got to bring Tim with you?
Well, and that's the thing that, it's like you can't answer questions on your own, which, again, immediately brought out the emotional support animal from CNN.
Mm-hmm.
That she needs her, as we said, emotional support, white male mansplainer.
Mm-hmm. But because it is Dana Bash and she's a woman, so it's required that.
Well, again, I go back to the radical transgender movement that they all endorse. 99.9% of Democrats on the federal level support, as we have said, the misogyny of the radical transgender movement.
Mm-hmm.
That men get to define women and men get to bully and threaten and harass women in order to play sports against them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's insanity. And you saw the misogyny with the guy who was close to getting his Lady Professional Golf Association tour card,
mm-hmm.
where he came right out and he just said, "Well, they need to be better.
Right?
How dare they criticize me? They need to train harder to compete against me." I mean, the misogyny that exists inside the Democratic Party here. So, hey, this is logical. Yeah. Kamala knows. She supports the radical transgender movement. So she knows that the Democratic Party can't even define what a woman is, and so a man gets to define a woman. She knows she's not capable, so she needs a mansplainer.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the Wall Street Journal. Don't think Kamala Harris's handlers are shielding her from tough questions. Consider in her first sit-down interview with the press this week, she's bringing along a crutch, running mate Tim Walz. The vice president's campaign has finally allowed her to take questions from Dana Bash of CNN, but instead of a one-on-one interview, Ms. Bash will have to deal with the Veep and Mr. Walz. This is a deliberate attempt to limit the potential exposure risks for the vice president. The one-on-two format will limit Ms. Harris's time in answering questions. It will also make it harder for Ms. Bash to pose follow-up questions that bore in on the vice president's contradictions with previous positions or get beyond general blather and seek specifics on taxes or foreign policy. Mr. Walz will be there with a parachute to rescue the presidential candidate if she has a rough go or struggles to answer something. She needs her mansplainer. Mm-hmm. This is one more Harris campaign insult to the American voters. The vice president was handed the nomination in an inside job a month ago. She is the least known presidential candidate in modern history and has had the least amount of media scrutiny. But her views on crucial issues she'd confront as president are not clear. And what we do know has been dribbled out in campaign press statements that we are supposed to accept as her real views. Her campaign speeches amount to little more than rhetoric and vibes. Her strategy is to float at 40,000 feet from here to November, when we will all learn what she really intends as president, or perhaps more accurately, what her advisors and the Barack Obama aides now running her campaign intend. How can we know what is true if Ms. Harris dodges serious questioning? The Bash interview is an attempt to rebut the criticism that she hasn't done any interviews as a candidate, but that isn't really enough, especially with Mr. Walz along as the chaperone. Ms. Harris's handlers should have enough respect for the voters and for their candidate to let her stand alone and ask questions by herself. Joe Biden was allowed to hide in his basement and avoid tough questioning during the COVID campaign of 2020. We all know how that administration turned out. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just amazing.
It's
well, again, but you have to. We've said this ever since Obamacare. Mm. So this is going way over a decade now. Mm-hmm. The Democrat politician believes that the average Democrat voter is a complete moron and idiot. Yep. That's what they think.
Yep.
That's why Jonathan Gruber said it.
Yep.
The American voter is stupid. He was not talking about Republicans because for Obamacare, they were only looking for support from Democrats. They insult Democrat voters on a consistent basis. They think you're an idiot and will buy anything because they look at the record and say they keep voting for us and we're putting in policies that are against the people that vote for us, against their best interest. These people are idiots. That's what they think.
And by the way, there's no outrage.
No. None.
Willful ignorance, willful idiots. Yeah. And then you show up and vote for her. Wow. It's the breakdown on this is so bizarre.
The problem is in the fatal error that they're making, again, talking about the ex-Biden staffers, they're doing the exact same thing that failed for him. It worked once in 2020. Once.
It worked because they used COVID as their crutch.
Right. It didn't work a second time for Biden.
No.
And the fact is, what they don't understand is by doing this and highlighting this and saying this is the interview, nobody's going to buy a week from now.
Right.
But you're right. They're going to come out and go, well, we didn't do a press conference.
Right. There
Dana
were
Bash.
multiple people there. And the media was there.
Yeah.
So we had press, we had conference. What else you want?
Exactly.
I mean, that's how stupid it's gotten.
But it's not going to hold water just like Biden doing it didn't hold any water.
Right.
866-90-RED-I.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Well, you saw the whole Jack Smith thing, re-indictment on Trump, and all of a sudden it seemed to die. Why? Because there's nothing there. We'll have some details on that coming up here in just a little bit. Did you see that Sarah Palin, that the appeals court grants the retrial of her libel lawsuit against the New York Times? Do you remember the day that happened when the editorial came out? What did I say that day?
Oh, that she's got a lawsuit.
So she got a lawsuit because it was something that everybody knew. And to prove malice, it's like, well, did you not know this? So that everybody in the media knew that the whole Target thing was about districts and not individuals, and they tried to tie that into the Gabby, Gifford shooting, and that was debunked.
This was
years
long
before,
after.
And we said that's malice because everybody knew it, and they knew it.
Remember when we came in and that story had hit? We were like, "Wait a minute, did something new happen?"
Yeah, I looked at you on the air and said,
"Where's this new information? What did we miss?"
You and I were reading it. It's like, my God, she's got a lawsuit against them.
Yeah,
you might be able to prove malice here because
right.
it's something that everybody knows is obviously wrong. There's only one reason you could do that.
And then the judge coming back saying, no, they said they were sorry or they said they were wrong eventually. Yeah. Sorry. That doesn't cut it. It'll be interesting to see where it goes. Because it's not about Sarah Palin. It's about how the media can be weaponized against someone like that.
Yep.
And look, we've seen it before, but when they cross the line, they should be called out. And legally, it'll be interesting to see where this goes.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across the USA, we are Red Eye Radio. I'm Gary McNamara. He's Eric Harley.
Hi.
Let's start this hour again, just for your information, to keep you abreast of everything that's going on in the political arena. Swifties for Kamala and their Zoom call.
Yeah.
Here we go. All right.
Players gonna play, 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 play. Haters gonna hate, 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 hate. Baby, I'm just gonna shake, 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 shake. I shake it off, I shake it off.
There you go. From the Swifties for Kamala.
Yeah, I think that clears up pretty much all the questions.
But got to ask the question, do all Harris supporters talk like children?
Yes.
I've got to ask the question.
Well,
is that the new thing?
Based on my experience so far, the answer is yes. From what I've witnessed, are there any adults in the room?
Well, that fetish that exists out there. Adults, with the diapers and all that.
Yeah. Yeah. And we don't mean adult diapers.
No.
No.
Well, I guess they would be adult diapers because the diapers wouldn't fit them if they're adults.
No, I think they actually come up there. There's got to be it's a baby diaper, a really large one. I think that they make just for that,
like Baby Huey used to wear on the cartoon,
right? For those giant toddlers.
I think we got to stop here because I'm going into an area where I really don't want to go into here. Remember?
Yeah.
But I remember, that there were documentaries on these people who their fetishes, their babies. Remember? And they
Oh, yeah.
baby
yeah.
bottles and
No, they slept in these enormous cribs.
yeah,
Right.
they
And we don't mean crib like in the modern sense of the word, which means your
Right.
house.
right. I mean, in cribs.
We mean an actual baby crib. A giant one. Yeah.
Because you saw the same thing in the white the white women for Harris.
Yeah, right.
It was like, why are they all talking like children? It's like, is that something? And it seems to be a lot of women, because where I've seen the fact that they're talking now. I mean, the men aren't any better. I mean, we saw Ben Stiller, during that whole thing for the white men or white dudes,
Yeah.
where he remember where he said, well, every Jewish man wants to be black.
Right.
Where the hell?
And
did
then
that
they
come
came up with one of them came up with what was it? Look at the rainbow of whiteness or whatever it is.
Yes.
All the different shades
We've never
of
seen
white.
so many shades of white.
Oh, my
It's a
gosh.
rainbow of white.
Oh, my gosh. Seriously embarrassing. I mean, the entire campaign is built on cringe. It is.
It is. It really
Her
is.
feet
Yeah.
pick is cringe.
Yeah.
I mean, there has to be at least 10 Democrats. I'm just saying, this is as far as I'll commit. I guarantee you there are at least 10 Democrats that are going, could we convince Joe to come back in at the last minute? Anybody got his number? Nancy has his number. Nancy,
Can you get him back?
tell him we were just joking. Something.
We want him back.
Tell him we need a hero. Whatever.
Bring back Biden. Bring back Biden.
Oh, my gosh. The entire thing. Seriously. Go through all of that. Don't ask us. Ask the audience that was sitting in front of Jon Stewart the other night about how cringe their convention was. I was telling you during the break. I brought up the question. What if the Dana Bash interview, what if all the editing, because we assume it's edited, we have not heard anything except for what the Trump camp is saying.
Remember when Biden did that interview?
Mm-hmm.
And they made sure beforehand, they said it will not be edited.
Right. Right.
I haven't heard that from CNN.
We have not heard anything except for the Trump camp saying, hey, this is going to be heavily edited and everything else. So we have no reason to believe it's not going to be edited. And what if all the editing in the world can't fix it? Because then you think, oh, well, no, they can, well, wait a minute. They spent tens of millions of dollars on a convention last week, and that was the best they could do. That's also a very contrived presentation, and that was the best they could come up with. What if the editors at CNN are like, this is the best we could do, and it's still bad?
You and I were talking during the break. What if he has equal or more time talking? And I'm talking about her emotional support, white male mansplainer, Tim Walz.
Mm-hmm.
What if he actually has more time talking?
Right.
How will that be viewed?
Well, why does she need to bring him? We're 40 days in, we're weeks into Walz being officially or announced and being the VP pick. You can't make the case that, well, this is our chance to learn more about Tim Walz. No, you've had that chance. That's actually already happened. So what would be the excuse? Well, we all know the excuse. because she's not confident in sitting down with even Dana Bash at CNN. That's not the pilot I want flying the plane. The pilot I want flying the plane is fully confident in their ability. And she's not even confident that she could sit down one-on-one with Dana Bash. That tells you everything.
You know, you bring up, and we had played it earlier this week, and I'll see if I can find it again because I think it is worth playing. And you know, you had mentioned the Jon Stewart, just crushing what happened at the DNC, and in fact, I do have it here. Let's play it again and then comment on it because I think it's important because it does show you that America does know what's going on, and liberals and independents know what's going on because the people that go to see Jon Stewart are not Republicans. They're not.
Right.
You know, the majority, the vast majority are not.
Right.
But let's just this was his analysis of the convention. Here we go.
They had a guy yelling, "Screw the billionaires," followed immediately by a very happy billionaire. It's all okay if it's our billionaire. Guys making fun of people for going to Yale, and a bunch of people who went to Yale. The Democrats had people who prosecuted sexual predators and
in that moment showing Bill Clinton. But let's just continue, just so you can hear the crowd.
There goes that booking.
I mean, that was, I've never heard comedic attacks on Democrats that got that kind of ovation from a Jon Stewart audience ever. I mean,
that was thunderous response.
And so what you have here, think about it. Everybody knows, I mean, the Trump campaign is running what I believe the Trump campaign would run, and that's on the issues. That's what they're running on. It's just bizarre when you take the totality of the Harris campaign. Didn't get one vote. We know there's dissension inside the ranks of the Democrats. The media is saying everything is wonderful and everybody's united. We know that's not true. We know that the public knows she's scared to death to do interviews. She's going to do the interview with a leftist political activist whose job is to protect her, and that isn't even enough. She needs to bring in her emotional support, white male mansplainer. She can't do anything alone. They're absolutely paranoid. Everybody knows it. On the major issues, she's trying to throw out the message that she agrees with Trump. She's lying about it. She's lying about it in order to get... She won't tell the media. You've got sources coming out and saying she stands for this. You've got the Harris campaign saying she stands for this. And then you get, as we played earlier, that Michael Tyler on fracking, for example, and he won't answer the question. And so the campaign is clearly, let's agree with Trump to a particular audience and not disagree, and then disagree. We will agree with Trump to a particular audience, and then we'll disagree with Trump and demonize him.
Right.
I mean, the whole wall thing, everyone knows, every Democrat listening right now knows that the campaign is a complete con. Everybody knows it. And that's why I've said, I don't know who's going to win the election, but if they win the election, it is the absolute evidence of what my father said. People wish to be BS'd.
Yep.
They want to be BS'd. And the bigger the BS, the more people are willing to accept it.
Yep.
Not all people. But you're going to find that it would mean the majority of voters wish to be BS'd because they know. And there will be people that will vote against their own self-interest because they love the BS.
Yep.
And then there will be people that know, Democrats that know, that she's lying about everything to put forth a radical agenda that they actually agree with. So you can't discount that. You just can't say everybody's ignorant from the Democratic side because the polls show they're not.
No, they know what's going on,
Right.
and they still ask for it.
Yep. Well, they want it.
Mm-hmm.
They want pure chaos. You know, the fun, did you see Chris Eliza today? Well, really don't know what's going on with the whole Arlington thing, but it shows that wherever Donald Trump goes, there's chaos. It's like that was the dumbest analysis.
Which is from a guy who's paid to be an analyst in the media. He knows there's nothing there.
Yeah, exactly.
Otherwise, he would have broken it down. Here's the problem with Trump doing that, and he knows there isn't one. Oh, I don't know what's going on, but that Donald Trump.
Well,
I mean,
and as we said, the American public have been through this twice now.
Right.
Once in 2020, and then Biden leading up. They didn't buy it a second time with Biden.
Right.
What surprises me is the Harris campaign, which is a ton of Biden staffers, is doing the exact same thing, except she has no excuse, except she's scared.
Yeah.
And has no confidence that the American public will agree with her if she tells the American public what she truly believes. And every Democrat knows that.
Yep.
But they're okay with it. They're okay with no democracy, no primary in their particular party. They have no problem with the Democratic Politburo picking, and for those that don't understand what that is, that was the Communist Party leaders in the old Soviet Union.
Back when communism wasn't so far left.
Yeah. I mean, and that's what makes this thing entirely bizarre. Everyone knows that the vast majority of the public agrees with Donald Trump on the issues. The latest polls show the same thing.
Kamala Harris knows it. Otherwise, she wouldn't be lying about agreeing with him.
Right. As we've said, we're trying to find one Democrat that believes, just one Democrat that believes that Kamala Harris has always been pro-fracking. As the campaign attempted to, didn't say it, but implied she hasn't changed her position. She's always been pro-fracking.
Right.
We want to find one Democrat that believes that. We want to find one Democrat that believes that Kamala Harris wants a wall.
Right.
We want one Democrat that believes that she is against EV mandates.
Mm-hmm.
One. One. Not two. One Democrat.
No, Democrats are, the rank and file are okay with the lies.
866-90 Red Eye.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90 Red Eye on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Let me expand that. I would like to find not just one Democrat, but one independent that believes that Kamala Harris is pro-border wall and pro-fracking. We'll keep it simple to those two.
Because that's the move is that she's lying in order to appeal to independents. The Democrats don't care about the lying, and that's not that's not their concern. That's not her campaign's concern at all.
Yeah. So I'll expand it to independents. Does any independent out there believe that Kamala Harris actually wants to build a border wall? Think about this. For 8 years.
Yeah.
What name hasn't Donald Trump been called because he wished to build a border wall? He has been compared to the devil. He's been compared to Hitler, Mussolini.
In fact, they've run out of so many comparisons. Now they say he's so evil, they compare him to Donald Trump.
Well, I was going to say, now, if you really want to say he's evil on the border wall, just compare him to Kamala Harris,
Right.
who now is pro-border wall. So really the fair thing would be, because we know that Democrats all know it's a lie. But do independents actually believe? Is there any independent out there that believes that Kamala Harris actually wishes to build a border wall and would be tougher on the border than Trump? And does anybody believe, because we had played the campaign person before, who wouldn't answer the question about what made her change her mind? And his message was, she hasn't changed her mind.
Right.
Goes, she's been very clear on this. She's always been get the energy. Never answered the precise question, but he was communicating that she's basically never changed her mind on energy policy, which means she's always been pro-fracking.
Right.
Does any independent believe, the search is on, we'll continue to ask the question every single day till the election. You can email, you can do whatever you want, on X, whatever. We just want to know any independent who actually believes that Kamala Harris's pro-border wall would be tougher on the border than Trump and is pro-fracking and more, as the campaign is attempting to convince you of, more interested and more passionate about going after fossil fuels than Donald Trump. Does any independent out there believe that? Because our search is on. We want to find just one. Not two, just one who actually believes that.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
In Red Eye Radio, he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. So, yeah, just one. And if there's a Democrat out there, too, I mean, we'll take a Democrat because our belief is Democrats understand that she's lying about all the Trump positions.
And we also believe the Harris campaign isn't worried about losing you. They believe they've got you locked in. So,
but is there any Democrat that actually believes her? I'd like to find that person. Any Democrat that believes that she really is pro-fracking and pro-border wall. That would be interesting to find.
Or is it like the Obama years and the calls we would get, we're okay with the line?
Well, yeah, that was when he was grappling with gay marriage. And I remember that one call in particular. It's great that when you don't live in the bubble of today and you actually have a little bit of a semblance of a memory, even though I sometimes forget names.
It happens, Rob.
But when I'll never forget that caller. Well, yeah, we all knew he was lying about that. Everybody knew he was lying. And it's the same thing today. Everyone knows Harris is lying.
Right.
I do want to go to this, though, the whole Jack Smith and the re-indictment again, which was big news for about a day, and then it sort of died when legal experts actually looked at it and said, well, there's really nothing here. I want to go to the interview, Neil Cavuto, with Andrew McCarthy, Andrew, on the entire thing where he says this isn't going anywhere before the election. Here we go.
Help me out with this and where this is going. What do you think?
Well, remember, Neil, that the Supreme Court directed Judge Chutkan to do a searching examination of the allegations in the indictment to make a determination of what was privileged or what was immune and what wasn't, what are official acts and what aren't. there's a variety of ways to go about that. But Smith's deadline was Friday of this week to present his plan for going forward. And I think the most efficient way to do that was to return another indictment. And I kind of don't understand what all the hubbub is about it, because the most notable thing about it is he's taken stuff out from the original indictment.
Besides our talking about it and a lot of the media talking about it, is it really going to influence anyone or to resume this entire matter, certainly before the election? That seems unlikely, or even after the election.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think that lawfare, whatever you think of it, has run its course as a determinant in the election. Nothing's going to happen here, Neil, because remember, no matter what Judge Chutkan ultimately rules about this new indictment, it's still going to be a live immunity issue, which means Trump will be able to appeal to the D.C. Circuit and the Supreme Court. This case is going nowhere before the election. I don't think it's going anywhere before we have a new president. So I think to the extent it was a factor in the election, that's kind of run its course.
What about the New York finance case, the sentencing slated for next month? And I know the Trump team was trying to say the Supreme Court decision even affects that. That seems like a bit of a stretch, but I'm not the lawyer. You are. What do you think?
It's not a stretch. It's a real thing, and that's because I think the Manhattan District Attorney's Office was pretty reckless in the way that they presented the trial. I don't think they needed to prove evidence of Trump's official acts, but they not only did, they actually subpoenaed and called to the stand 2 of his White House staffers, and they knew the Supreme Court was considering this issue, so I think it was kind of reckless on their part to do that. But even Bragg has told Judge Merchan that he doesn't object to a postponement of the sentencing, and it looks to me to be pretty obvious that the sentencing has to be postponed. I don't see how it can go forward on September 18th, because whatever Merchan decides on Trump's new immunity issue based on the Supreme Court's opinion, he gets to appeal that.
There you go. It's amazing that, we talked about how that story of Bragg, going to basically saying, I have no problem if you delay the sentencing, how that wasn't a bigger story. It seemed like Neil Cavuto was completely unaware of that. When he said, well, it seems a stretch here. It's like, really? Apparently you haven't. It's amazing how little publicity that story got, which we brought you earlier this week. That Bragg said, no, don't go forward with it.
Right.
And the reason is, we believe, is if he does the sentencing, they now believe that lawfare, they figured lawfare would work for them. And now they realize it'll work against them if they do this. If they try to go forward and he actually did the sentencing, it'd be like, oh boy.
I think Bragg realizes that they would be creating a martyr. We'll see what Marchand does, the judge there. I think with Jack Smith, I think there's good reason to believe it would be a solid theory would be that Jack Smith also knows this is going nowhere before the election, but if I get a headline, new indictments on Trump, that's all I need. At least I get that in a news cycle for a day or two, just to create some doubt for those who are clueless about what's going on. Because not everybody follows these cases day to day. In fact, I'd venture to say most people don't know the details of those cases. But in New York, even Alvin Bragg really can't point to the crime. 34 counts of nothing. But that doesn't stop them, and they are dependent on the willfully ignorant. So, yeah, you put this out there, if you're Jack Smith, you just float it. One last Hail Mary into the abyss, knowing what Andrew McCarthy has pointed out, that it likely will go nowhere.
Now, the thing about Bragg is he knew when he brought the case. He knows he's not an idiot. Mm-hmm. They know that regardless of whether, as to whether the Supreme Court got involved in it, that his case was going to be overturned.
Right.
Based
he just
on,
needed to keep it
right,
cooking
right,
until November 5th.
Right. Based on reversible error in itself.
Right. Yeah.
His goal was they thought that if they could convict Trump of the felonies, that automatically Biden would win.
Right.
That's why they did it, because that's why the case is so horrible. And so even if the Supreme Court did not come down with their immunity rulings, which does tear apart his case, he already knew that it was going to be overturned. They didn't care. All they cared was he's a convicted felon, 34 felonies.
Yeah.
Well, why don't they do that anymore? Why isn't that being said 24 hours a day by the Democrats? There's only one reason, and we know why. It's the same reason why some in the Harris campaign are trying, because we don't know who is trying to say that she's pro-border wall.
Right.
And that she's pro-fracking.
Anonymous sources
within the campaign. And then a campaign statement. And then when the campaign is asked about the statement, they won't answer specifically about the statement.
Yeah.
God, it's just like...
Yeah, it is so bad. But that's think about all of the facades here that we just covered in this one segment.
I know.
And we didn't even bring up the Russian hoax.
No, but what happened was they thought lawfare would work.
Yes.
Now they know that it had the opposite effect.
Right.
It made Trump stronger. The last thing they want to do is say we're going to sentence him to prison. Even if it's appealed, Bragg doesn't want that.
Right.
Because it blew up in their face.
Right. And I think Jack Smith is looking at this going, my gosh. You know, in the beginning when I launched this, I thought I was going to be, I think the same with Bragg. I thought I was going to be a hero. I think on the day that, in the Bragg case, where the conviction came down, where it came down from the jury, Bragg was holding his own parade. You know, because the left media started, convicted felon. And then that fell out. Oh, man, we're creating a bigger martyr. We should not be saying that any longer. That's, honestly, it's everything is a facade on the left. Tell me what's real. Tell me what is real here. The nominee got 0, none, nada, diddly and squat votes. None. Not even one. She didn't even get a chance to vote for herself. On election day, we assume they vote for themselves. She didn't even get that. I mean, this is out of nothingness. So bad. Just everything a facade. The cases, Jack Smith, and we talked about how the media, even Fox News at times, was covering things as if these were legitimate cases.
Yeah.
Oh, they'll be going through the blah, 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 blah. There's nothing here.
And that's the thing, because and the point I'm trying to make on appeals is Jack Smith knew.
Yeah.
And excuse me, Jack Smith. Bragg knew. Jack Smith knows too. but
I was going to say they all know.
But Bragg and even Merchant knows. They're not idiots. They know that all of this would have been appealed, and there was massive reversible error, and it wasn't going to go anywhere even before the immunity ruling. So they had no problem prosecuting, spending millions of dollars of taxpayer dollars, Bragg did, to bring a case that he knew was going to be eventually reversed.
Right.
Even before the Supreme Court immunity ruling. They didn't care. The only goal was to taint Trump.
Right.
And say, if we can find a jury, we can make up stuff. Mershon can put in total reversible error points. For example, when it came to the you can choose from one of the three, because still today we don't know precisely what Trump was convicted
Well,
of.
I was,
we do not know what Trump was convicted of.
Why not include in the jury instructions from the judge, or make up one of your own?
Right. I mean, it was so bad, the reversible error, but they didn't care.
They don't care.
And then all of a sudden, boom, it hit, and then there's a backlash.
Make it.
Right.
You nail it shut, making sure a conviction comes across. Oh, that's all you need. It's not going to hold up long term. Doesn't matter. You just need the words "convicted felon" out of the whole thing. That's all you need.
That's all they wanted, and it didn't work.
Even that didn't work. That backfired. Created a bigger martyr.
And that's why Bragg sent the letter to Mershon. It wasn't because, well, this could be reversed on appeal because of immunity. It was going to be reversed anyway based on reversible error because you did things that aren't allowed under the Constitution.
Right. I mean, it's beyond insane.
And so those are the little things you look for. You look for things like that. Okay, where do they think where do they think this is going? Okay, that. You look at because frankly, the polls, I don't trust. After what we have seen in election interference from the Democrats, I believe everything has the possibility of being tainted. Everything does.
Right.
Sorry. They created it.
Tweak your own methodology to make it work.
Right.
In the pollsters.
I look at things like how they backed off there. I look at things like the audience reaction on Jon Stewart, The Daily Show.
Right. Yeah.
I look at that. Does the public know what's going on?
Right.
And it seems like the public knows what's going on. We have another poll that we'll throw at you coming up far in the top of the hour on the fact that, the vast majority of Americans blame Harris for the border crisis. Mm-hmm. That more coming up, 866-90 Red Eye.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90 Red Eye.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. New polling out there on the issues, which is really interesting. We will get to that. And 82% of Americans are considering delaying retirement. 82%.
82% in the retirement, getting into the retirement age. I'm guessing those in past middle-age demographic.
It just said 82%.
Okay.
General. They break it down. We'll have the breakdowns coming up.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. All across America we are. We made it to a Thursday, and it's interview day. Snore, 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 snore. I mean, we'll cover it, of course, tomorrow, but...
by cover it, we mean mock it endlessly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
The thought occurred to me about an hour ago. We were just sitting here and what if all the editing in the world can't fix it, which is a distinct possibility? Because it's not just, okay, we can fix a word salad, right? They go in and edit that down. But it's also the overall picture, the imagery of it already going into it is horrible.
Well, you know, the audio and the video of her before those students yesterday was wildly mocked.
Yeah.
Because she sounds like Mrs. Rogers.
Yes.
If there was a Mr. Rogers, she'd be Mrs. Rogers
Right,
there.
right.
It was like, wow. Hello,
Yeah.
boys and girls.
Right.
Can I be your neighbor?
Yeah.
It was like, it was bad. And so, you know, and I'm sure that was an edited piece that they, you know, the campaign said, okay, we can put this out.
Mm-hmm.
And they thought it would be a positive. It was just mocked endlessly yesterday. So, and that's the one thing that we don't, again, when Biden, I forgot who he did the interview with, when he said, okay, I'm going to do an interview. And he did an interview, and you had, was it CNN? Or is it NBC?
Yeah, I'm trying to think.
But whoever it was came out and stated that, you know, you will see it from the beginning to the end. We will not edit it.
Unedited. Because
be
he had
unedited.
done another interview, and everybody was saying, yeah, it was heavily edited. And then the next news agency that came out and did an interview said this one is going to be unedited.
Right.
I think it was CNN.
Yeah, that has not been done in this case. From what we know, it's not
Right.
been, unless they put in a statement we haven't seen, because the Trump campaign is saying it's going to be edited, it's going to be edited, it's going to be
Right.
edited.
Right.
Why? Because they have not said it's not going to be edited. So we have to believe that it will be, because the purpose of Dana Bash is to protect Kamala Harris.
Mm-hmm.
The reason that Kamala Harris has her emotional support, white male mansplainer, is because she in the campaign has no confidence that she can take questions even from a leftist Democrat political activist in the media, that she still cannot answer the questions to the satisfaction of the campaign.
Here's what's interesting. I had to go over to CNN just to see if they had written in any of their, you know, promotion, basically. I mean, they're doing a
Right.
story on it, but it's self-promotion here. If they had used the words unedited, right? And so here's one story. Analysis by Stephen Collinson at CNN. Analysis. Vice President Kamala Harris faces the next test in her presidential bid on Thursday with her first unscripted interview. Did I miss the scripted interview? I've had a lot of things going on in my personal life this week. What did I miss?
Was there a scripted interview?
Where's the scripted interview?
Who has done a scripted interview?
Well,
when was the last scripted interview
trying to
of
think.
a presidential candidate that you know of?
I'm trying to think. I mean, are they?
Because that would not be an interview. That would be acting.
Right. I was going to say Veep. Julia Louis-Dreyfus.
the TV show.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, my gosh. That video that came out? You see the video?
No. Of? Oh, yeah.
I don't even want to say where that went to, but just the video itself, even if you don't want to have any type of sexual context to it, was just, I mean, and they think that's like people watch it and go, yeah, it's almost like the Swifties for Kamala that we had played, the Zoom call. Some of that. I mean, they just don't get it. There's no self-awareness.
The white women for Kamala. Spaghetti-o. It's like, what is wrong with you? Are you sober?
And I was like, did you see that, though? Yeah, but that's scripted. That's her character. I don't care.
Don't bring it anywhere near the campaign. How about you not try and use that in any real way?
Right. The Easter Bunny thing didn't work at the White House for Biden. So I mean, it's like, don't bring characters into it.
A source close to the Easter Bunny tells us. Who would that be? Al Roker? I mean, seriously, look at all of that's something the whole facade building, of course, it's going to go this way. You know, you have so many things where they really are trying to prop it up. But it's like trying to build a sandcastle with dry sand.
Well, but it's simple. Maybe this is my culture that I grew up in, but political campaigns are about where you stand on the issues, so I know where you're going to take the country. End of story. I know where Trump stands. I have no idea. Well, no, I completely know where Harris stands, and she's trying to convince me that she doesn't take any of the stands that she has held her entire political life. That's where we are right now.
In order to sell her candidacy to independents, she has to pretend to be more like Trump. There is no way around. That's a fact.
Right.
She's pro-fracking. She's pro-wall. She's pro-Israel. In order to sell it to independents, she has to lie and pretend she's just like Trump on those key issues. You can't dispute what I just said.
No, you can't. Everybody knows. That's why we're trying to find and have this week. Haven't found one Democrat or independent that actually believes that Kamala Harris is for a border wall or is pro-fracking.
Right.
We can't find one independent or Democrat that actually believes it.
Right.
Because anybody who would listen to talk radio or listen to us knows what's going on.
Right. Right.
But I just wonder if they're out there anywhere. So ask your friends, ask your neighbors, ask your relatives if they're thinking of supporting Kamala, whether they're an independent or a Democrat. Ask them if they actually believe that she's pro-border or pro-fracking. Pro-border wall.
Yeah.
Well, either she's not pro-border either. They don't want borders.
That's true.
But looking at some of the polling out there, a majority of registered voters, this is from the New York Post, 75% oppose non-citizens voting in U.S. elections. 25% favor non-citizens voting in elections and favor policies making it harder for them to vote, according to a new polls released by the Neapolitan News Service. A majority polled also blamed Vice President Kamala Harris for the border crisis, recognizing her as President Joe Biden's designated border czar. Registered voters not only overwhelmingly oppose non-citizens voting in federal elections, but even larger majorities, 87%, support requiring voters to show a photo ID to vote. Only 9% oppose the photo ID requirement. That's important because the California legislature passed a bill. California legislature passed a bill banning local governments from adopting voter identification laws for local elections. California does not require identification to vote, but earlier this year, the city of Huntington Beach approved a voter ID requirement for municipal elections starting in 2026. This bill would override Huntington Beach's policy. The bill's author said an overwhelming body of evidence proves that voter ID laws only subvert voter turnout and create barriers to law-abiding voters, wrote the bill's author, Senator David Min, a Democrat. To register to vote in California, voters are already required to provide their driver's license number, California identification number, and the last four digits of their Social Security number. the vast majority of Americans, 90% basically disagree with what California is doing. But it shows that even though the majority of Democrats disagree with what California is doing, they'll continue to vote Democrat.
Yeah, not going to change
on the issues.
This is why we say that there is a distinct possibility that she wins nationally, because this has been the case with liberals for a long, long time. They understand the issues. On the issues, they side overwhelmingly with Trump, but it doesn't matter. At Election Day, they do what they do. That's bizarre to me. It is so counterintuitive, but it's reality.
In the poll, 54% said they believe it is likely that a large number of illegal immigrants will be allowed to vote in this year's election, despite federal law prohibiting it. 36% said they don't think non-citizens will be voting in the November election. 10% said they were unsure. Well, look, just looking at, to sit there and believe that none will be voting is ridiculous, because we already know Texas clearing, 1 million people off it, and found out that at least 2,000 illegal immigrants have voted in elections.
Yeah.
Here.
Right.
Not a large number, but they have voted in the state of Texas, where you do need voter ID.
Right. Yeah.
In a separate poll, 54% agreed that Harris was given responsibility for handling the situation at the southern border. Only 19% said she wasn't. The rest, I don't know. So there, but that's still landslide numbers, 54 to 19, and 26% said they weren't sure. A plurality, 47% said illegal immigration will only increase if Harris is elected president, compared to 20% who said it would go down, 20% who said it would remain the same, 12%, I don't know. 60% said if former President Donald Trump were reelected, illegal border crossings would go down. Only 13% said it would go up. 15% said it would stay the same. 11% said they were unsure. Well, there you go. So the public knows.
Oh, yeah.
They know she's not for a border wall.
Right.
By wide margins, they know it.
They just don't care. If you vote, if you know that and you vote for her, you don't care.
And the whole thing is that it's racist. When you have 90% of the American public, that means vast majorities. And we know, we've done the polling. Because remember, voter ID was racist, it was racist, it was racist. And think about that. Democrats tried to sell that year after year after year after year. And even the majority of Democrats who vote Democrat didn't believe that.
Right.
And that was part of the basis, remember, of the entire Georgia election law, and Biden playing just like a leader of the KKK or the white Aryan nations, playing the race card, telling a lie to get people of different skin colors to hate each other when he called the Georgia election law, remember, Jim Crow on steroids.
Right.
Which actually got the Major League Baseball All-Star game moved out based on a lie.
Yeah, and they moved it to a much wider area, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. And so, I mean, and the Democrats still, like I said, in California, they're going to stick by it.
Yep.
But you finally have to, when it's year after year after year after year after year, you know, a lot of people just get involved in the political process for a short period of time. I've been doing it since, I've been doing it in the media. I've been in talk radio now for 35 years, but I've been, over radio stations, news departments, and things like that. I've been paying attention in the media for almost 50 years. And I've seen it year after year after year after year after year after year after year. And finally, you have to, when you cover it close to a half a century, you finally have to say, this is what Democrats want. This isn't the fact that politicians are doing what they don't want. The Democratic Party, the voters of the Democratic Party, the insanity we've gone through over the last 4 years is exactly what the Democratic voter wants.
Yep.
Otherwise, he'd be upset.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And they're not. 866-90-RED-EYE.
Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at JJ Keller, and I'm here to share a tip on speed and space management. In order to manage speed, you need to understand the 4 factors involved in stopping a vehicle. Perception distance is the distance a vehicle travels from the time you see a hazard until your brain recognizes it. The perception time for an alert driver is approximately 3/4 of a second. Reaction distance is the distance a vehicle travels from the time your brain tells your foot to move from the accelerator until your foot hits the brake pedal. The average driver has a reaction time of 3/4 of a second. Brake lag distance also needs to be taken into account. When operating a vehicle with air brakes, it takes about half a second for the mechanical operation to take place. Finally, braking distance is the distance it takes a vehicle to stop once the brakes are applied. Braking distance is affected by the weight, length, and speed of the vehicle, as well as road condition. This tip was brought to you by JJ Keller and Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Coming up, we talk about inflation, what people think about retirement. This poll is just fascinating. Do you know 61% of the people polled fear retirement more than death? Wow. Well, that shows you the financial insecurity they feel.
Mm-hmm.
I remember the public speaking one where people were more scared of public speaking than death.
Yeah. I don't know, the whole idea of retirement, and I've seen, I don't know how many articles, by the way, in the last week or so on it. It's just been a real focus, and more and more people working during retirement age and the whole thing. For me, I want to keep working because I enjoy doing it. For a lot of people, maybe just to stay busy, or you just need to work.
On our website, RedEyeRadioshow.com. Show info with stations, podcasts, and more. Red Eye Radio.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. All right, you ready for this? The new retirement poll that's out, survey by LiveCareer.com found 82% of Americans are considering delaying retirement due to financial reasons. 92% are worried that they will have to work longer than they'd like. By the way, that's something that sits with you all the time. We've talked about inflation, and somebody brought up a great point. I forgot who it was the other day, but it's like, duh. We buy the same things most of the time at the grocery store.
Mm-hmm.
Most of us don't go and buy, except if it's a big ticket. We're buying the same things each and every day. We know what the price was, and we know the price hasn't come down.
Right.
And so that's how the public knows, because we buy the same things.
Yeah, you get into your shopping routine.
Yep.
Your cooking routine if you have a family, or even if you don't. This is what I tend to eat. This is what I tend to buy.
And that's why we said with everything going on and everything else, the Republicans still have to stick with inflation each and every day. And that's very easy. Were you better off during my administration or the Harris-Biden administration? That's what you do every day.
Right.
You don't really have to get into the numbers. You just say that because people already know that. You don't need to convince them with figures. You don't need to bring statistics. It's all you need to ask. And they should be doing that every single rally, every single press conference. You know, we talked about how that Michael Tyler for the Harris campaign was deflecting whether she's pro-fracking or not. Every surrogate of the campaign, when they're out there, every single surrogate would say, thank you so much for that question. And just remember, ask yourself before we get into this, are you better off now or were you better off during the Trump administration?
Right.
That's the question you need to ask.
Right.
All right, fine. Let's get into whether she's actually pro-fracking.
Yeah.
But you should do that every single time that you get a chance to do that because inflation is a huge problem. And it's causing people insecurity, not just with the things they buy every day, but what the future is going to bring. Whether this one job's going to handle it. Do I need to go out and get a second job? How does that change my life? How does that change my personal life? How does that change my relationship with my spouse and my kids? How much time, how many fewer hours can I spend with my kids if I do that? These are real world decisions that are all caused by inflation.
Right.
But 92% are worried that they will have to work longer than they'd like. 64% said the thought of retirement is more frightening than getting a divorce. 61% fear retirement more than death. Wow. 82% said inflation has significantly curtailed their ability to save for retirement. That means people are saving nothing.
Yeah.
The majority, 80% of people plan to retire in their 60s, with just 10% aiming to retire before they turn 60, 9% between the ages of 71 and 75, and only half of 1% never plan to retire. Here we are. We're in a very, very select group, Eric, apparently. Well, as I've said, I'll retire because I'm already past regular retirement age.
Right.
Not maximum retirement
Right.
age, but regular retirement age. For me, it was 66 years and 2 months. It was a few years ago. And I did think, when I can still remember when I was building my house, which almost 18 years ago. Yeah, 18 years ago.
Right, yeah.
When I was, wow.
Yeah.
In my mind, it was like when I turned 65, or at that time, when I turned 66 years and 2 months, which was my normal retirement age, I said, wow, it's going to be great. I'm going to go back. I'm going to play golf all the time. The dumbest thing that I thought was that, no, I plan on, my base was still stay in Texas if I retired. This is what I was thinking at 50, 51 years of age. But yeah, I'll go up and see my family and, my siblings and all that when I retire and go up during Christmas, and then I'll spend all of January skiing. Oh, my God. All these athletic things I was going to do, skiing and golfing all the time. I can't golf every day, and the body breaks down. I didn't take that into consideration.
Well, there's that.
And so for me, retiring would be that my cognitive ability to analyze has gone down. That would really be it.
I was with you up until Kamala Harris started running. And it shifted to my cognitive will to do analysis. If my will to do analysis just completely leaves my being, then I'm going to have to retire. If breaking it down by the way, highly entertaining right now. It's like someone giving you a gift. It's like the merry-go-round is going, and every time the clown comes around on the merry-go-round, they hand you this basket full of candy.
All right. If I ever truly believe that the Democrats are pro-fracking or for a border wall, then I will retire.
Well, yeah. I don't think that will happen. I think it would be, again, the aforementioned lack of will to do it anymore. It's like, okay, I give up. I just don't.
Well,
it's so stupid and crazy because, clearly everybody is smoking weed. But I'm not. And I'm not gonna. And so at some point, people don't talk about this. Make sure you bring a designated driver to the party. Thank goodness, by the way, these days you don't have to. You can call someone. You can call. There's how many different services to bring you home. But back in the day, the whole designated driver thing, yeah, well, they leave the party at about 8 o'clock for a reason, because everybody else is drunk. And more, it seems like that. Now, still, I find it highly entertaining what's going on right now. But at any point, if I reach that threshold, maybe when I'm 95 or 100.
I always thought that by the time of doing it, of this, show and for my normal retirement age, that, that would have been, roughly 40 years in the business, that I would have had enough.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't turn out that way. It's more exciting now than it's ever been. And you and I talk about it. It's more fun than it's ever been to do this. So we are rare, but I know I've got friends that retired, and it was good they retired. The stress was killing them in the jobs that they had. It really was.
Yeah.
So
sure.
I know a few.
Right.
So, situations are different for each and every one of us. But people ask me all the time, "Don't you want to travel? Don't you want to do this?" It's like, nope. And my answer is very simple. When I lived in Oregon, I looked into the mouth from 4,000 feet up into the mouth of Mount St. Helens from the Johnston Observatory.
Right.
I was able to go up with the Thunderbirds in an F-16 and do everything they do in the show, including taking the 9Gs.
Right.
And I was able to win a bunch of different races in an international Hobie Cat race in Choctawhatchee Bay in February of 84. And crew for the best sailor in the world with 3 days practice. I don't know what else I need to do. The Choctawhatchee Bay outside of Fort Walton Beach, just so people know. I mean, I don't need to do any. Nothing can top those things. And and I flipped a legend car at Texas Motor Speedway that I was driving.
Not on purpose, to be clear.
No, not on purpose. I got flipped. Going about 110 miles an hour just as we entered a curve.
Yeah, right.
And flipped. And in my mind, as I was flipping, it's interesting what goes through your mind when you're, flipping in the air like that.
Right.
What went through my mind is, man, I hope a piece of metal doesn't come through and decapitate me because Mom will be awfully ticked off.
Well, it's Brian Regan does a bit on Evel Knievel back in the day when people would ask him after a failed jump like Caesar's Palace or something. What were you thinking right at this moment? Showing the moment where he's coming off of the bike as it starts to crash in slow motion.
Oh,
Is it? I don't know. I was thinking, did I leave the iron on at home or did I? No, I'll tell you what I was thinking.
43% plan to continue to work part-time during their retirement years in their same field of expertise. 29% plan to find a part-time job in a different field. Only 42% are highly confident that they are on track to save what they need in retirement. 86% said they think they'll need between $100,000 and $750,000 to retire. I know.
Okay,
I did the same
that's
thing.
such a huge. By the way, a massive swing. I don't know, somewhere between 100,000 and 750,000. That's a huge swing, and it's also wrong. Because here's what the ones who think 100,000 will get the job done. What they haven't factored in is that their parents will no longer be alive to live with.
As to how much they have saved, and this really isn't, I don't like how they did this because, if you polled people that were 55, it would make sense. But if you're polling people from 18 up, well, then this really doesn't make much sense. As to how much they have saved, 48% have saved between $50,000 and $200,000 set aside for retirement. 14% between $200,000 and $500,000. 5% between $500,000 and $1 million in their retirement fund. So there you go. 39% are worried about becoming a financial burden to their loved ones, and the same percentage is worried about not having enough money for medical emergencies or unexpected costs. Look, I will tell you that as someone who started saving late, because I didn't make a lot of money in radio, you know this, for a while, and then when I did, it's like live way beneath your means and you pack as much as you possibly can in. It's something that's on your mind, especially as you get into your 50s.
Yeah,
How much
you want
do I have?
to make sure that you.
It's like tick, tick, tick,
Yeah,
tick.
future Eric has to eat.
Yeah,
future Eric is going to have medical bills. That's what I plan for. When people ask, and I get the same thing too. Well, don't you want to do this? Don't you want to travel? And I don't have to retire to do those things. Anything that I want to do, I can do. I don't have to retire because it implies. Okay, let's say, don't you want to do this and do that? Well, yeah, so I do something. Let's say I wanted to travel to Scotland, right? Okay, I can do that. And then what? It's I fully respect anybody who wants to become a full-time traveler. And you want to do that, that's fine. But for me, I don't need to be retired to do that.
but the point here, inflation is always on everybody's mind about everything.
Oh, yeah, sure.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. So that's what I think, there's so many things that get thrown at you during a campaign. You can't forget the one thing that's a constant all the time. You've got to bring up everything else. You got to bring up the flip-flops of, or the lies, because they're not really flip-flops, the lies of the Harris campaign trying to co-opt, on where you have stood. I mean, the one thing, I really wonder how Democrats view the ad on the border that she put together with the wall and everything else, and how she'll be tougher on the border than Trump. They know it's BS.
Right.
They all do.
Right.
The majority of you look, if 25% of Americans want illegal immigrants to vote, they're all Democrats.
Yeah, right.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.